My sister called me to invite me to her daughter's 6th birthday party, but her tone was completely dripping with condescension. She looked me dead in the eye over the phone and said, "Brittany, to be perfectly honest, your kids just don't fit the elegant vibe I'm going for." I sat at my kitchen table, completely frozen, watching my 5-year-old son Jake and my 3-year-old daughter Ava peacefully building a tower of blocks. They were being explicitly blacklisted from a family celebration just because my status-obsessed sister thought they were too high energy for her country club image. When my husband Ryan walked in and saw the raw humiliation on my face, a terrifyingly calm expression took over his features. He didn't yell. He just went into his private home office and closed the door. Within an hour, he didn't just defend our children, he completely liquidated my sister's entire financial livelihood with a single click of a button. Before I reveal the massive corporate secret my husband was hiding from my family, and how he used it to crush my sister's ego, I have to ask, where are you watching this video from right now? Tell me your city or country down in the comments. I love reading where our community is tuning in from. Now, let me take you back to how this systemic disrespect truly began. My name is Brittany. Today, I sit in my living room wrapped in a heavy, charged silence. The smartphone on the coffee table has finally stopped violently buzzing with frantic, panicked calls from my relatives, but the aftershock of what just transpired still lingers in the air. From the hallway, I can hear Ryan's deep, authoritative voice echoing from his office. It is a firm, commanding tone I have never heard him use before, the voice of a man who decides the fates of entire corporations. Growing up in the affluent suburbs of Connecticut, I was conditioned from a young age to be the designated peacemaker. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, were the absolute epitome of traditional, old money expectations. My father was a high-profile corporate litigation attorney, a man of agonizingly few words but crushing standards. My mother was a perpetual social butterfly, entirely consumed by public appearances, country club optics, and what the neighbors thought. In their eyes, my sister Nicole was the undisputed golden child. She was beautiful, wildly confident, and inherently used to weaponizing tantrums to get her way. I vividly remember my 10th birthday. I had begged for a simple, cozy sleepover with my classmates. My mother had reluctantly agreed, but 48 hours before the party, Nicole suddenly decided she wanted the family to travel to an elite ski resort instead. She threw a spectacular fit, and my parents immediately caved to her whims. I spent the entire weekend of my own birthday standing in the freezing cold holding my mother's designer handbag while Nicole happily carved up the slopes. When I quietly wept, my mother just sighed and whispered, "Brittany, you have to be the bigger person. Nicole is simply far more sensitive than you." That toxic phrase became my permanent label, the easy one, the quiet one, the daughter who didn't cause inconveniences. When I graduated with honors from college, my parents bought Nicole a luxury sports car because she felt emotionally left out by the academic attention I was receiving. My reward was a brief pat on the back and a rushed dinner at a local diner. Even when Ryan and I got engaged, Nicole intentionally announced her pregnancy a mere week later, effectively hijacking my engagement party and turning it into a mandatory baby shower planning session for herself. So, when Nicole delivered her icy ultimatum about my children, a lifetime of suppressed resentment finally hardened into iron. Backed by Ryan's unshakable support, I phoned my mother and firmly stated that if my children were not welcome as a whole, we would not be attending her family function in pieces. My mother immediately shifted into full-blown crisis mode. "Brittany, you are being incredibly difficult and selfish," she lectured over the phone. "Nicole has an elite, highly curated vision for this party. Your children are simply too undisciplined, and they will ruin the aesthetic. Just hire a babysitter and come alone." I refused and hung up the phone. The social fallout was instantaneous. My inbox was completely bombarded with vicious text messages from aunts, uncles, and cousins, all accusing me of ruining a child's birthday out of petty jealousy. I felt entirely isolated, an outcast from my own bloodline. On the actual day of the birthday party, Ryan and I decided to drown out the negativity by taking Jake and Ava to the city zoo. It was a flawless, sunlit afternoon, and the kids were laughing hysterically. But then, my mother had the absolute malice to FaceTime me directly from the party venue. She panned the camera around the lavishly decorated country club, showing the towering cake, the pristine entertainment, and all the cousins playing together. When Jake saw the screen, tears welled up in his innocent eyes. "Why aren't we there, Mommy? Did we do something wrong?" he sobbed. My mother looked at the screen with smug satisfaction and whispered, "Well, sweetie, this was your mommy's choice." I slammed the phone shut, completely consumed by a wave of parental failure and grief. Ryan's eyes turned pitch black with rage. "That is the absolute final straw," he said, his voice deadly quiet. "They have officially crossed a line they cannot walk back from." He marched directly into his home office. An hour later, he called me inside and sat me down in front of his dual-monitor setup. It was in that moment that Ryan revealed a reality I had never fully grasped. While I knew he was highly successful in commercial real estate, I had no idea that Ryan was actually the founder and majority shareholder of Summit Group, a multi-billion-dollar global asset development firm. "Brittany," Ryan explained, pointing to a corporate bidding ledger on his screen. "Nicole's husband, Eric, is a senior partner at Arch Design Associates. For the last 6 months, his entire firm has been desperately bidding for a $50 million architectural contract to design our new international Summit Group headquarters." Eric stood by and smirked while his wife emotionally abused our children for a dynamic vibe. "I do not do business with individuals who lack basic human integrity." With a single, definitive click of his mouse, Ryan officially rejected the bid, permanently blacklisting Eric's firm from any future Summit Group developments. Within 90 seconds, the phone on the desk began to vibrate so violently it nearly slid off the wood. It was Eric. When I answered, he was completely hyperventilating, screaming at the top of his lungs, demanding to know what kind of political strings Ryan had pulled. I cut through his panic with absolute precision. "Ryan doesn't need to pull strings, Eric. He owns Summit Group. He made an executive decision based on how you and your wife treat our children. Enjoy the party." The family empire collapsed into utter chaos by dinner time. My mother drove straight to our house, aggressively pounding on the front door, weeping that I had maliciously ruined Nicole's financial future. She demanded that Ryan immediately reverse the rejection and restore the $50 million contract. Ryan stepped onto the porch, looked down at her, and calmly stated, "An apology delivered under financial duress is entirely worthless, Mrs. Thompson. The decision is final." 3 days later, Nicole arrived at our doorstep completely unrecognizable. The smug, country club facade was entirely gone. She looked utterly exhausted, broken, and defeated. She quietly admitted that the moment the contract was lost, Eric's firm had summarily fired him for gross negligence. She wept openly, confessing that her marriage was completely falling apart behind closed doors, and that her obsession with a perfect party was just a desperate attempt to mask her own deep-seated jealousy of the stable, loving marriage I shared with Ryan. In a moment that completely shocked me, she dropped to her knees in front of 5-year-old Jake, sobbing as she begged a child for forgiveness. Jake, possessing a heart far purer than anyone in our family line, gently patted her shoulder and whispered that it was okay. But when Nicole looked up at Ryan, silently pleading for him to save Eric's career, Ryan remained completely unmoved. "Trust is a fragile asset, Nicole," he stated firmly. "It takes decades to cultivate, but only a single phone call to permanently destroy. Your family needs to learn how to build a life on honesty, not optics." The road to recovery was long and icy, but the power dynamic in my family had permanently shifted. By Thanksgiving that year, the snide comments and passive-aggressive glances had entirely vanished from the family dinner table. Eric quietly shook Ryan's hand the moment he walked through the door, and 6 months later, Nicole extended a humble, completely inclusive invitation for us to join them at a local pumpkin patch. Looking out into my backyard now, listening to the beautiful, unfiltered sound of Jake and Ava playing in the grass, I reach over and tightly lock my fingers into Ryan's hand. "Thank you," I whisper softly. Ryan looks over at me, a warm smile gracing his face. "For what, Britt?" "For teaching me that setting firm boundaries isn't being difficult," I reply, my voice completely steady. "It's an act of protection." He smiles, leaning in close. "You always possessed that strength, Brittany. You just needed the right mirror to finally see it." I smile back, knowing with absolute certainty that I have finally found my voice, and that the family we have built together is completely unbreakable.